Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. General Hospital, Monday, November 4 recap. Jason devastates Spinelli and Maxie Sonny's advice for Dante. General Hospital, GH, spoilers recap for Monday, November 4, reveals that Holly Sutton, Emma Sams, wondered if Robert Scorpio, Tristan Rogers, would cut her out of his life for withholding the truth about Sasha Gilmore Corbin, Sophia Matson. Robert didn't want that, but he also wondered if they could really rebuild the trust between them. Holly ultimately decided it was best if she left and gave Robert a big kiss in case it was truly their last goodbye. At Maxie Jones, Kirsten Storms, and Damian Spinelli's, Bradford Anderson, House, Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, stunned them with the news that Sam McCall, Kelly Monaco, had a fatal heart attack. As Spinelli and Maxie struggled to wrap their heads around Jason's updates, the three of them discussed memories of Sam and what she meant to them. After Jason gave a tearful Spinelli a hug and left, Maxie and Spinelli did their best to console each other. In the GH chapel, Rocco Falconeri, Finn Kerr, told Laura Collins, Jenny Francis, that he previously thought if only one of them could survive, he wanted it to be Lulu Spencer, Alexa Havens, over Sam. Now that Sam was gone, Rocco held himself responsible for putting that out into the universe. Laura insisted there would be a medical reason for Sam's passing, and got him to admit that Sam wouldn't blame him. With that in mind, Laura didn't want Rocco blaming himself either. Instead, Laura urged Rocco to focus on the beautiful gift that Sam gave Lulu and their family, so they ultimately lit a candle and said a prayer. Meanwhile, Dante Falconeri, Dominic Samprogna, told Sonny Corinthos, Morris Bernard, that he didn't want to live without Sam and struggled to know how to build a life without her in it. As Dante wrestled with all the what-ifs, Sonny offered some comfort and suggested Dante would have to carry on for the kids. That would help Dante move on as well, according to Sonny, who pulled him into a warm embrace. At Sam's penthouse, Alexis Davis, Nancy Lee Gran, had a weepy meltdown since she just wanted her daughter back. Molly Lansing Davis, Kristen Vaginos, and Christina Corinthos Davis, Kate Mancy, regretted that the final memory they made with Sam involved a confrontation, but Alexis suggested they all had to be there for one another now. Once Molly got a message on her phone about the meal delivery service she'd scheduled for Sam, the loss hit her all over again. At the Quartermain mansion, Drew Quartermain, Cameron Matheson, found Scout Quartermain, Cosette Abinant, quietly coloring a picture of her family. Scout asked if Sam was really gone, so Drew sadly confirmed it was true. After Drew assured Scout that she had a lot of people who loved her, he promised to always be there for her. That didn't do much to comfort Scout since Sam previously told her the same thing. However, Drew talked about love never going away and said Sam would always be with Scout before pulling her into a hug. Downstairs, Carly Spencer, Laura Wright, praised Danny Morgan, Asher Antonizin, for being a brave brother with Scout earlier. Although Danny knew something was wrong, he never thought he'd actually lose Sam. After Carly shared some comforting words and embraced Danny, Jason came back to console his son as well. General Hospital spoilers say Jason will have to take on a bigger role in Danny's life and help him navigate his grief, so we'll pass along more predictions on what's in store. The cool November morning at General Hospital began with a hum of activity that belied the emotional landmines waiting to be triggered. Monday marked a turning point for many, with heartbreaks, new revelations, and raw tension enveloping its halls. Jason Morgan stood near the hospital's main entrance, his jaw clenched as he prepared to deliver news that would fracture the core of Spinelli's world. The notorious enforcer's usually stoic expression was marred by something that could almost be called regret. He watched the elevator doors part, revealing Spinelli and Maxie, their laughter echoing down the hallway, a cruel contrast to what was coming. Stone cold, Spinelli greeted, his eyes twinkling with a warmth reserved only for his most trusted confidant. Maxie, arm looped through Spinelli's, wore a bright smile that instantly dimmed as she caught sight of Jason's somber face. "Jason, what's wrong?" Maxie asked, her voice cautious, laced with worry. The motherly side of her had been on overdrive since Georgie's return home last month, and every shadowed lip carried a whisper of potential danger. Jason sighed, a sound as heavy as iron. He glanced at Spinelli, then Maxie, the weight of what he was about to say constricting his chest. "It's about Ellie," he began, each word like dragging a blade across his own skin. "She's gone." The accident in Portland, it was worse than they initially reported. Spinelli's expression fell, the light in his eyes extinguished as the realization crashed over him. Maxie gasped, her free hand flying to her mouth. For a moment, the world stopped. Monitors beeped in the background, a nurse wheeled by with an IV stand, and a doctor barked orders at a resident, but none of it registered. "No, no, no," Spinelli muttered, eyes wide with disbelief. "It can't be true. She was fine. Just last week, we were talking about Christmas plans and," his voice cracked, trailing off into a silence so profound it hurt. Maxie reached out, gripping Spinelli's arm with desperate reassurance. But she too was fighting her own storm of emotions, the weight of shared memories, broken dreams, and a future now haunted by the specter of loss. Jason shifted his gaze, unable to look Spinelli in the eyes any longer. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Spinelli's legs buckled, and only Maxie's quick reflexes stopped him from collapsing entirely. Tears, unbidden and raw, traced paths down his face. He clenched his fists, trembling as a flood of memories. Ellie's laughter, her meticulous notes left on the fridge, the way she would tilt her head when lost in thought, assaulted him with brutal clarity. Nearby, Dante Falconieri had just stepped out of Sonny Corinthos of office. The mob boss had insisted on meeting at General Hospital, away from the familiar confines of their home turf. Sonny leaned against the edge of the desk, arms crossed and brow furrowed with paternal concern. "Dante, listen to me," Sonny said, his voice steady yet laced with urgency. "Your instincts are good, but sometimes you let your doubts cloud your actions. I know what you're trying to do, to make things right with the family, with yourself. But you have to trust that you can do this without letting the past eat you alive." Dad nodded slowly, the dark circles under his eyes proof of his recent sleepless nights. Ever since returning to Port Charles, he had struggled to find his place, to shake the demons of his PTSD, and the guilt gnawing at him for the decisions he made during his time away. Sonny's words reached him, weaving into the tangled mess of his thoughts, but the clarity he sought remained elusive. "Thanks, Dad," Dante said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm trying, really. It's just, it feels like every time I get a step ahead, I trip over the past." Sonny's expression softened, the usual hard lines around his eyes relaxing as he clapped Dante on the shoulder. "You've got this, son. And if you don't, well, you know where to find me." Before Dante could reply, the sound of a commotion drew their attention down the hallway. Nurses darted past them, concerned glances exchanged like notes between children. Sonny squinted, taking in the scene unfolding near the entrance where Jason, Spinelli, and Maxie stood like statues in a tableau of grief. Dante's brows knitted together. "What's going on over there?" He started walking toward them, Sonny following at a more measured pace. As they approached, they caught snippets of conversation, Maxie's voice trembling with worry, Jason's low, regretful tone, and Spinelli's anguished muttering. The puzzle pieces clicked into place in Dante's mind, the sharp intake of breath signaling his understanding. "Ellie, the accident." Spinelli looked up, eyes locking with Dante's. There was no need for words. The raw, unfiltered pain said everything. Dante swallowed hard, the instinct to help warring with the knowledge that no words or actions could erase what had just happened. Sonny's presence beside him was a quiet reminder of life's brutal unpredictability. Maxie, eyes red and puffy, reached out for Jason, who had never looked more broken. His own silence was an unspoken apology for not being able to protect the people he cared about from this kind of pain. Spinelli finally found his voice, a cracked whisper that cut through the silence. "I can't believe she's gone," he said, more to himself than anyone else. The weight of his loss hung heavy in the air, an echo of all the unsaid things that would never be spoken. Dante stepped closer, placing a hand on Spinelli's shoulder. "I'm so sorry, man," he said, each word sincere, each syllable etched with understanding. Sonny, silent and observant, took in the scene with a somber nod. Loss was an old companion of his, familiar and unwelcome. He knew today's grief was not his to bear, but the pain was palpable, a shared undercurrent that linked them all. In that moment, General Hospital became more than just a place of healing. It was a crucible of the human experience, a space where joy and sorrow coexisted, where friends and enemies alike were bound by shared suffering, and where the weight of loss was both a reminder and a warning.